All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios in Old Hilliard. I'm really, really excited. I'm absolutely honored today. I really mean this. I genuinely mean this. I have done, this is episode 197, 197 interviews, and it never gets old. And I never want to take for granted how blessed I am to be able to interview someone like Mr. Cameron Arnett, who is an award-winning actor in television and film and theater, hailing from Port-Au-Prince. Did I say it right?
Mm-hmm.
Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Port-au-Prince, Haiti. He is also an author, speaker, film director, producer, voiceover artist. He's appeared on most of the major networks, on NBC's Miami Vice, Fox's Star Trek: The Next Generation, ABC's China Beach, and Doogie Howser, MD, VH1's Single Ladies, which how did that get in there?
That's a long story.
Well, we got time. And then Tyler Perry's Meet the Browns. Would you all welcome my guest, Cameron? Thank you so much for being with us today.
Man, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's truly an honor. And I didn't even get into your movies yet. And that's what we're on today. We want to talk about your latest film. However, I got to start with one because it really rocked my world. I'm a big Jeremy Camp fan anyway.
Yeah.
You had a role in the movie I Still Believe. And it's so funny because I swear to you, God works in mysterious ways. Last week, I was just texting with somebody about the movie I Still Believe because Jeremy was just in Columbus, where we live, this week. And so I was just texting with somebody. We were talking about the movie, and I didn't even realize you were in the film until I go today, and I started getting ready for today's. Anyway, man, can we talk about I Still Believe? Because, well, first of all, welcome to the show. I'll let you talk for a minute.
Man, well, I'm glad to be here, man. The bottom line is that God is doing something, and we're privileged to be a part of what He's doing, and also the fact that He chose us to be all involved in it. I don't know what else I'd be doing if I wasn't following God. I'm glad I don't have to find out. And I'm looking forward to everything that He has in store. And, it's just been surreal. My wife and I pastored for 18 years and never thought I'd be acting again after I left Hollywood. And, to be doing this now this way, and for Him and it to be flourishing the way that He's doing it is just mind-boggling. And all I can say is I'm grateful. I know that there's a whole lot more to come, because He gives you the desires of your heart. So there's so much that He said to me that I'm believing and declaring to see, because I know that He's faithful. And so, man, it's just an awesome thing.
So what has impressed me so much, because I do stalk my guests, even though we're unscripted, we don't have any questions back and forth. I do stalk my guests a little bit, and every red carpet interview I've seen with you, you lead with your faith. Seriously, I'm so amazed at how you've done that in every clip. So if anybody's watching, just go YouTube Cameron Arnett, and you'll see what I saw as I was stalking you. As creepy as that sounds.
That is so funny.
It's just real talk. I got to prepare for the show, right? And every time I would look at a YouTube video, you're on the red carpet with your bride, and you're just beaming about your faith. It's really real. I just have to tell you that as someone that doesn't know you, I'm so impressed by how you lead with your faith in everything you do.
I don't know anything else. I mean, to me, when you're in love, right? When you fall in love with that woman for the first time, and you're hoping that she loves you, you're plotting against life to make sure that you can do everything that you can to be with her. You are willing to do so much. You're looking stupid. You're waking up at 3:00 in the morning. You're doing whatever you got to do. You're going into every kind of store to find jewelry, to find flowers, all of that.
Yeah.
And, and we are loved by the creator of the universe, who not only loves us, but then puts His love in us for Him, so that love can be talking to love. And to me, I don't really know how people don't do that when you say you know Christ. I don't know any other way to be. I you know, how Jesus says, without me, you can do nothing. I know how much nothing I can do,
Wow.
you know, without him. And to me, it's like, I am, you know, I'm a child in the sense of gratefulness, man. I know how bad I could mess things up and how bad I have messed things up in the past. I know that, you know, I know me. And
right.
so, to be able to realize that he chose me to be his period before anything else,
Right.
To go about the, you know, my life proclaiming and declaring him and giving him his props is, to me, I wouldn't know what else to do.
Our church recently is going through a series, and one of the things that they talked about, I think it was last week or the week before, they mentioned in scripture where it says, you know, you've forgotten your first love. To your point, I think we, in our marriage, now we can probably go to a whole nother conversation, but in our marriages, to your point, I think we do everything we can.
Second hour.
That's right. That's the next episode. Thank you. You know, but I do think, you know, we pursue our bride, our first love. And so I'm so impressed that you haven't forgotten your first love, I think is really what I get to. So we'll talk about that on another episode another day. But because of that, you are actually now helping others through films with your roles. And so I want to talk about some of those films. The first one, again, I mentioned earlier, I still believe I was able to, blessed, honestly, to get a preview of the film before it came out, and I left, and I cried. I'm going to say I cried at least 50%, which is on brand for me. If anybody listens to the podcast, it's very on brand for me to cry. I'm in a bad, but I did, I just cried throughout that whole movie. What a powerful story. And you had a big role in that film.
Well, you
Can
know,
you talk about that one?
I have a big role in that. I played Dr. Furst, which was the one that they came to, and got the diagnosis, you know, walked them through and those kind of things. And to be able to, you know, there are certain parts that you play and certain words that you say that kind of, you know, stick with you and that give you revelation of life and everything else. And, you know, again, to give them that diagnosis and to see and walk through that faith, that turning her turning things over to God, and even preparing what his life would be as he moved on. What a powerful thing. And you know, to me too, not only dealing with her faith and her perspective because of Christ, but I forget the name of the gentleman who kind of, you know, gave way to Jeremy in order to have her as, you know, that follow through as his love.
Right.
But again, those kind of things in life where people are giving way and making way for God to do what he wants to do, you know, not my will, but your will be done kind of a thing. Right. Is just a magnificent thing to be a part of. What I love about films and being a part of them is that we're able to live out as actors a life that causes us to really understand what walking with God truly is like by stepping into the shoes of these characters, but also as people, we're able to look visually at lives being lived in such a way as to give us an understanding of what it should look like in our personal lives. You know, from the perspective of Laban and Jacob, we find out in scripture that people become what they see, you know, and so now being able to being able to be a part of God overtaking the airwaves and God overtaking Hollywood and all these things, and being able to put in picture form what a life that is devoted to Jesus Christ in true belief and faith should look like in bad times and in good, and being able to walk away with that virtue, and emulate that. It's an awesome thing, man.
It has to be. And it had to be unique because this is a true story. This was, based on a true story. And I think it was pretty accurate from Jeremy's book that I had read before the movie came out. This stayed pretty true. I think very true and close to his story. So what was it like? And I know I believe you have a medical background. Again, I stalked you.
Well, I don't have a medical background. I was a pre-med, pre-law student in college, and I have a medical background from the perspective of working in hospitals, EKG, doing respiratory therapy, those kind of things. And so that was where I was going. I was on my way to become a cardiologist. That's what I wanted to be. That's what I loved, anatomy and physiology and biology and those kind of things. That was my strength in college and in my desire. But to see again God change the whole trajectory of my life by this whole film and television and everything else. But yeah, when you take a look at those kind of instances, those kind of issues or aspects of people's lives, going through this and watching what they went through, and then being able to meet Jeremy and Adrian. I always mess up.
I believe so. Yeah.
But again, to be able to meet them and see what they went through and how they continue to have such a impacted and glorious life in him, having gone through all that and still now being examples to other people. It's just part of the blessing of God to be able to be that close to things in the process. And so, yeah, it stays with you and it guides you. It leads you. It impacts you, and it helps you to continue to be an example that you should be to other people.
We want to talk about your new film, but that's where I want to really set up camp. but getting there, so the next one was Overcomer. That was a massive film for you, and so instead of being the doctor, you were the patient. So what a reversal that had to be for you from right. Yeah. So still in the hospital, but different role. Can you talk about Overcomer a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny because, Alex always teases me like, man, you came and you just laid in the bed and just like did the whole movie. He's so expressive. I love him. But yeah, I ran into him at Opryland, and he was telling me the story and again, he's so meticulous in how he does things and how he conveys the thing. And I was like in tears. And then I got an opportunity, of course, to do the film. That role changes you. That role, having a man that has lost his sight, but that has gained his sight, lost his eyes, but gained the knowing of God. He is someone that, I tell folks that, faith is doing what God said, but trust is doing it when nothing looks like it's happening, it's going right. Sure. And so to continue in that trust that he had for God in spite of what has happened to his life, man, it was a life changer for me, because I got to get closer to God through Thomas Hill. You know what I'm saying? There were a lot of things about Thomas Hill that are like, Cameron Arnett, that are like who I am. But there was a greater depth even from being able to embody him that causes me to see God in the bad times, to trust and to have the joy and the peace of God when I don't understand what's going on. That was my takeaway. You know what I'm saying? From Thomas Hill is man, I don't care what it looks like. You are here to give life, and the life giver is still inside of you. And there's still, regardless of what's going on, there's still future, there's still hope, there's still all of that. And the impact that you can still make on another life, through whatever pain that you may be going through, is still a vital part of your life. And so you should never lose, the understanding of God using you and being, and I'm totally enthralled with that, and man, what a wonderful life he is, Thomas Hill is just that human that you want to run into and that you want to be.
So welcome to Unscripted, because I'm going to be all over the place. But as you were talking, and that's what I love about this format. as you were talking, so you've been in TV. What was the name of the VH1? Single Ladies?
Why do you want to go back to that?
Sorry. I saw it on there. All right. But anyway, you've been on VH1, you've been in NBC and Fox. You've been in several things. What's the difference between those and then doing films that are impactful? And I'm not diminishing any show you've ever been on. Right. But I have to ask, what's the difference? I think there's you just said takeaways. And personally, when you do a film like I Still Believe or Overcomer or others that we're going to talk about, I have to think that's impactful for you. You've mentioned it already versus, and this is no disrespect, but Star Trek, like what is there a difference for you personally? It really sounds like there really is when you do these different films.
I mean, a huge difference in so many ways, a huge difference, pro and con. You know, the impact that Christian films, faith-based films, principle-centered films, family-friendly films, the impact that those make on you personally, is like being in a class with God, and you get the benefit of playing the role. You know what I'm saying? It's like it can be. If you're looking for God, if you want God, okay, because I mean, every actor that's in a Christian film is not necessarily looking for God. I mean,
100%,
okay.
100%,
And so if you're looking for God, it is like God leaping you into knowledge and depth with Him by having to embody someone that is that much deeper, maybe than you are. And so it's a catapulting class. Yeah, acting to me is doing these kind of films personally is a catapulting class. I get to walk in the shoes of some people, because not all the characters are as deep as Thomas Hill, right. But and some people that I want to be like, that I esteem to be like, that I'm in the process of growing with God to be like. And what's great about doing those characters is that their essence stays with you.
Right.
The reason why in secular films, people get married 5 times and, all this kind of stuff happens to them and they go on drugs is because they take on the spirits of these characters. Right. And these things stay with them. These spirits stay with them, and they think that they're in love with Sue and Bill and you name it. Now they want you to play gay and blah blah blah, and you think now you gay. No, it's craziness out there.
Right.
And so the essence of these characters stay with you, and when you're working on characters that have integrity, that have trust in God, I mean, those things stay with you, and it's a benefit to give yourself totally to that kind of character, because the residue leaps you from where you were to where that person is. And it's almost like that role itself comes back to become part of your mentors when all hell breaks loose. You remember the words of Thomas Hill. You remember the words, it's like, I mean, do you honestly think that you can ask me to pray for you? And that I wouldn't pray either right away or as soon as you get off the phone, because I don't want to ask myself, well, you said you'd pray for me and you didn't. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not going out like that. Right. And so, but that role made that so real.
Right.
And it's not like I didn't pray for people, but now it's like, it's in my ear, it's in my spirit. Yeah. And that's the beauty and that of doing these things personally, and the testimonies that you hear from other people. That's the beauty of being given these kind of roles, that other people can now see themselves and grow just by breathing it in.
It's a ministry. You mentioned the word earlier. It is a ministry in many ways. Playing a role that you play. I was thinking about one of my favorite films is, unfortunately, it's called The Dark Knight. It's The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight, and Heath Ledger unfortunately passed But, I think as an actor, you understand too. And there's, you can't believe everything you read on the internet, but I think he almost got too into the role. I think I'd rather have roles where I'm strengthening my faith, growing and being challenged by God. And I'm not diminishing. It's my favorite film. And Heath Ledger was amazing in that film. He was amazing. Yeah. Almost to the point of maybe too amazing. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing though, I teach acting now, and what happens with it is that, God taught me something in LA. I mean, I was like just, sitting around in my living room watching television, and the Spirit of the Lord starts speaking to me, and like, what he posed me a question: what do actors do? And so I'm like, okay, Lord, you're God, you tell me,
Yeah.
And God started, at that point in time, I was still winning awards even as a secular actor, and but God taught me what it was that I actually did, and then sanctified it.
Wow.
And so now, because you're going to play, somebody got to play Judas, somebody's going to play the devil, somebody's going to play the Joker.
Right.
So you're going to play, I played a character by the name of Solomon Grant, which was a wolf in sheep's clothing as a pastor, and so somebody's going to play those roles, but how do you play that and not get infested with that,
right,
with that spirit on the inside? There's a way to do that. And what God had to show me was that I can hate what God hates. I have to love what God loves. I have to see things how he sees it. And so now as an actor, I have learned by the Spirit of God, how to portray something negative by doing it in such a way that still honors God on the inside. I don't have to take on that negative person in order to convey something negative. I just have to be able as a Christian to convey something negative that is right to convey that negative attitude towards on the inside. Right. I can walk home with that. I can go to sleep with that. Yeah. But I mean, and so my entire inner workings, my subtext, my inside man that goes through these things are different, because now I understand, even when I have to play something that looks diabolical, I don't have to be diabolical on the inside. And that is what changes things, which means that you don't get hampered with, satanic spirits. You don't get hampered with, satanic attributes.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of actors do. And so that's part of what I try to go teach as I teach, actors, is how to shift the way in which they find their emotions to convey these things, because there is a tapping into God that will give you, because he's the creator of all your emotions.
Right.
And so there is a way to tap into God to convey what looks like a negative emotion, but in a righteous way.
Wow. Again, that's probably a whole nother episode. That's fascinating. Honestly, it is fascinating. And please remind me, because I think what you just said segues well into the new film, which is First Responders, because I think there's I have several family members. We'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to, so please don't let me forget that segue. But first, I do want to mention Running the Bases. That is out. That's out right now?
That's out
correct?
Right now in theaters. Yes.
Okay. Can we talk about Running the Bases? And I really want to get into the First Responders. But sure. Running the Bases, can we talk about that one?
Oh, sure. I mean, Running the Bases is again a different kind of character. I mean, I'm kind of like, not to give any spoilers, but there's a lot of comedy in what I do and what that character is, and it was a joy to play. It's really an ensemble piece, the entire film. A lot of great actors. I'm talking about Christian from skin to bone. These guys are Christian from the inside out. And we all have a love and a passion for God and for each other. And it was just a piece of heaven to work with these men and women of God that are in love with God. But, the character that I play, Sam, is kind of a quirky one. And it still brings a twist at the end, which seems to be a lot of what I get. The characters I play bring a twist at the end of the film. But a lot of fun. And the message is over the top, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, and but you're going to be convicted to be the best you, to stand for Jesus Christ, to make the right decision, the right choices, to have that walk of faith and of trust. Man, it's a power packed film, and it gives it on every level, and all the actors just do a phenomenal job.
And that's available right now.
It's available right now in theaters, so go check it out before it leaves.
Running the Bases. It's in theaters. Again, to your point, go check it out. We have to support Christian films. We really do.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's never been a more important time, I think, than now to support, the work of those like yourself and everyone involved that are putting out these type of films into a world that absolutely needs to hear them.
You know what the saints need to understand? We have a tendency to look at the natural and just be in the natural. But there's something that God is doing. He is taking his word out of the four walls of the church, and he is massively attacking the atmosphere. And so it's a time when the saints have to understand that either they're with him or for him. It's not just go see a movie and go have fun. It's be a part of what God is doing and calling the world and the church back to himself. It's not just a matter of going to see a movie, but understanding the power of using your finances to speak to the world in a way that they understand. These films are becoming more and more excellent every day.
Yeah,
acting is getting better and better every day.
Right.
It's overtaking the world. The church is doing and competing with the world, yet having less funds. You have to be that much better to do what the church does. I'm talking about the industry of the church. You have to be that much better to be able to compete with the world when the world is spending $100 million on a film and you're spending, let's say, even $1 million, and yet still be able to compete with the quality. And the saints need to get involved and to understand how important it is to support it with their money, with their finances, with their time, because this is not about movie making. This is about God evangelizing the world and overtaking the kingdoms of the world. And so he's employing his children to be a part of that, those who would answer the call. And all of us are ministers of Christ. If you are born again, if Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, you are a minister. So get involved with however God wants to use you in the process. That's what this is all about.
It really is. I mean, he's given us technology for a reason. And the fact that we're using it for his benefit, because other people are using it in other ways. And so I think, our answer, our call is to combat those other forces, whether it's social media, movies, you name it. I mean, YouTube, we have the tools, and they can be used for good or they can be used for other things. And that's not saying that other things are all bad, because I think we can find God in everything if we look close enough. But we should specifically raise up things that are absolutely identifying and raising his name, praising his name, glorifying his name. If we're not doing that, we're probably going to have a really hard time finding him in the other places.
and if we don't do that, let's also not complain.
Right. Right.
You either have to be the solution, or you're either the answer or the problem.
Yes.
And so if you're not going to be part of the answer, you just really can't complain about what the world does. The world is the world.
Right.
But is the church the church?
Right.
And so we have, and God has given us the opportunity to shine bright now. So
yeah,
let's get involved and do that.
Okay. You've been very patient for 29 minutes. Let's talk about the new film, First Responders. So when they reached out to me, just to give you an idea, when they reached out to me immediately, I was like, I'm in. I didn't even really read it, because I knew, because I have, multiple friends that are first responders. I have a brother-in-law that's a first responder. I have multiple family members that all work in some capacity in EMT or hospital, or so immediately that's why I was like, yes, I'm in. And then this is an incredible film. It looks like, because it follows the path of first responders. Can you talk a little bit about the movie?
Yeah, you're right. It is a good piece. The subject matter again, it correlates to me, and that's how I saw it. It correlates to the Christian life because you're talking about people who run into the situation. While everybody's running out, they're running in. Right. And they've committed their lives to that. And it takes courage and boldness to do that. And, these are people with families. These are people that want all the things in life that we all want. Right. But something about them, they've been wired in such a way as to give themselves the permission, the allowance, the drive to run into crazy situations to save other people's lives, for the benefit of other people's lives, and not only their lives but their pets and their homes and it's all about somebody else.
Right.
And they take the risk of their own lives being snuffed out just so that you could be safe. And so there's, to me, great integrity and great honor in that kind of a mindset. But there's also the things that people go through, the obstacles or the mind issues that they go through, the problems that they have within their families because of making those choices. And right. To me, it correlates to being a true Christian. You're being sent into dark places, to save other lives. You've already gotten out. You're right. Saved. You know what I'm saying? Right. You're on your way to heaven. Your life may be, hunky dory. I mean, you may have your little house and picket fence, white picket fence, whatever it may be. I remember when my wife and I got married, man, it's like we talked about the bliss of being married together. My God, what God had done. We are like so happy. And yeah, we had our house, we had our this, we had our that. And the complacency of that could overtake you. But the passion of God within you to proclaim his word and to save people's lives, you do it lest you die. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's like fire, right? And so right. You're wired that way. And it's not like you couldn't just, relax, like, and be about leisure like everybody else, a whole bunch of people, know, but you're not wired that way. You are a Christian. As I've been sent, so I send you. And so, yeah, I could relate to that. And I think for us, the more mature we get, the less issues we have about the choices that we've made on the inside. But when people don't have Christ, they suffer from a whole different barrage of emotions and issues that we may have grown out of because we have him, because we know whom we serve, why we serve, but very powerful film. And I think people will, again, out of this film, be able to see, their life choices, be able to see, who they could be, the courage and the boldness and be able to have more of a compassion and empathy for people in those places.
Right.
Because, that's something that I think we need. And this atmosphere of life these days is empathy. There's a lack of empathy for the human condition.
Yeah.
That I think that we'll be able to see and have, if you're looking, if you want, if you're someone who has the inkling, you're going to find something speaking to you that's going to make you help you make better decisions and to have empathy for your own life and for those around you.
And so it comes back to the segue we talked about. I think, we talked about actors being able to separate their role from their, person. We talked about that. I've always been amazed, and I ask my family members when I talk to them, those that work with cancer patients in a hospital, first responders, this exact thing. How do you disengage from your day? You know what I mean? Some of us just go to a cubicle, and I'm not disrespecting any job by any means. I'm just saying,
Right.
like, some people just go to a cubicle and we type on a keyboard and then we go home, and yeah, we may have a bad day. We have stress. We have those things. That's a whole nother level when it's a first responder, because you're, to your point, I may go save someone that, has different beliefs than I do. I may be saving someone that, I mean, just insert whatever is there. How do you disassociate, on that drive home? How do you separate? Did you see that when you were making this film? Because I think it's important when it comes to people's faith as well. That's a whole nother level of day job.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It is. And disassociation is key,
Right.
And that's the thing. If you don't know Christ, if you don't have a relationship, I'm not talking about if you don't go to church. I'm talking about if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, the Holy Spirit, the written word, if you're not living the life, disassociating is harder.
Right.
Because you're not just connected in that you have a call or a mandate upon you, or a wiring that causes you to be that kind of a person, but you're connected in the emotional upheaval of it all.
Right.
And you're not meant to have that kind of connection, because you have to have a trust and a belief and an understanding of who God is, more so than the problem that you may be facing or the people's issues that you may be going into. And I remember, like I said, when I worked in the hospitals, I would work at Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami, and on the weekend, it'd be like crazy. People coming in with bullet wounds and buckets of blood under them and spilling all over the place. And, I'm doing EKG and respiratory in the emergency room while the doctors are suturing and cutting and doing this. You're trying to get in and doing whatever you got to do. And, you got to disassociate, because you cannot take that on and take that with you.
Right.
But for me, how I disconnect, or really, it's not really a disconnect from the issues and the people and the problems, as much as it is a remaining connected even while I serve the people, and that's the worship of God. I mean, worship is key,
right?
Because worship allows you to see God for who he is. Worship allows you to magnify God above and beyond anything. And so therefore you end up looking down at something as opposed to looking across from it or looking up to it. When we find ourselves looking at situations across or up to that situation, is because we have not spent time with God in such a way as to be able to look down on it. And worship is what elevates you. Obedience, Jesus defines loving him as those who obey him. Obedience, puts you on a place where the negative things that happen in life don't affect you the same way as everybody else, because the faithfulness of God is so magnificent, is so on another level. The truth of God, the joy and the peace of God is so beyond anything, so that you are able to bring that atmosphere to the issue, as opposed to take the atmosphere of the issue upon yourself. My job is not to go into a situation like a responder, first responder. My job is not to go into the situation and allow the situation to minister to me. I'm there to minister to the situation. And so for as long as you are outpouring, then it can't overtake you. When we get overtaken, it's because we're not outpouring, we're taking in. And so that's the understanding and revelation in the lifestyle that I know that I have with God. And I know that any moment in time, and I'm in this body too. And so I'm not saying that I don't have moments that I'm like, oh my goodness, but those moments are so short-lived because of the lifestyle that I live. Right. I'm able to recognize that immediately, as opposed to what it used to be way back in the day. I tell folks all the time, it's like, if people have to go back 30 years into your life to find an issue, then that's pretty cool.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so that's how I see it, man. But again, in dealing with the film, you have to embody the emotions of these people that don't necessarily know God the way that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to bring that across has to be done in a way that allows you to remain disconnected to their emotions.
Right.
And
right.
It's very intricate, but man, God is so able.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask you one more question about the film, and then we'll talk logistics about where people can find it and when and how. So last question, what is your role in the movie?
Oh, I play Darnell Taylor, and I don't want to give. I'm always careful of giving out any spoilers, but
nobody listens anyway.
I am one of the responders.
Okay.
That deals with some traumatic issues.
Okay.
Within the film, and at some points in time, I may have a place of strength, and at some points I'm the one under the circumstances and having to be ministered to and having to go through, whatever counseling and blah, blah. And so, it's a very emotional piece, but it has the understanding of the hope that you can and should have at the end of the day when you understand whose you are and who he is. And so that's Darnell. That's the Darnell that I can talk about. Fair
enough. No spoilers. Like I said, I don't know if you heard me. Nobody listens anyway. So
you're classic. Nobody listens.
I'm just kidding. No, thank you for that. But I think all of us know a first responder, have been helped by a first responder, care about a first responder, have them in our church, our small group, our life. Someone has a first responder. And so please support the film because I think it will help us understand those that we have in our life. Is that fair to say?
Let me take a moment to deal on something here with the first responder, because, right now in the atmosphere that we're living in, there is such a fallacy that's going on that it allows me to, or this film allows me to talk about it somewhat. There's such a fallacy going on between people of color and the first responders that are the police. There's such a fallacy going on.
Agreed.
And sometimes we don't understand that it's the negative powers that be. It's the satanic powers that be. It's the disciples of Satan that be that propagate the fallacy.
Right.
And so there isn't a sane, godly person of color that I know that is trying to defund the police. That is trying to say that the police are evil. But that's what you hear. Those are the kinds of things that are being said. And yet we as a church are praying for our first responders.
Absolutely.
And so that message needs to get out.
Yes.
Where the responders that are police officers that throw themselves into the line of fire for the public at large understand that people of color are not against them. We are against injustice.
Right.
We're against the bad apples.
Right.
Shouldn't be, but we're not against the police. My God, that would be insane. So those kind of things, I think, I think it would be stupid for you to hate a fireman and then your house gets on fire and you're like, well, I hate firemen. Well,
right.
That's insane.
Right.
And I think that we would be able to see it more clearly somewhere there than here for some reason.
Right.
But I just wanted to put that out there, man. Don't believe the lie. Don't let the world and the lies of Satan and those who are disciples of Satan dupe you,
right?
And to thinking that that they're just like all black people are not criminals,
right?
What I'm saying? It's like those are the fallacies. And instead of dealing with the fallacies, we let the negative voices speak in such a way as to permeate, this evil and insidiousness and craziness in the atmosphere. And it's not so. Right. We ought to be praying for all of our first responders. These are people, whether they know God or don't know God, and especially, man, we should be praying that they would know God, that are throwing their lives into the face of danger for humanity
daily.
So, just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you for saying that, because I agree with you 100%. I don't know. I have multiple friends that are in the police officers, and there's not a one of them. I promise you, there's not one I know that doesn't have a heart of gold and a heart of servanthood. That's why they're police officers. You know what I mean? Like, I agree with you. They have and the same for all the first responders. They have a heart of servant. They have a heart that most of us don't necessarily think about every day. I mean, a first responder, when they go to work, they may not come home that night. I mean, and that may sound a little, but it's not. I mean, we don't know. They may not come home that night. And why? Because they're protecting us. That's, I don't know a better heart.
And brother, now, because of the atmosphere, not only may they not come home, but there are people that are trying to make sure they don't come home.
Right. They've given their life for it.
What in the world?
They'd give their life so someone else could go home that night. That's crazy, right?
And then you turn around and try to ambush somebody who's trying to protect other people.
It's crazy.
I don't understand. I mean, I understand. I know it's Satan. I know it's evil. But, and again, see, just like we're talking about the films, I think these are places where the church needs to get more involved and be in the forefront of bringing truth and empathy and justice and love and all of that to the forefront of all this craziness, because unless we get involved as salt in society, it's going to rot even more.
Absolutely.
And that's the beauty of these films, and that's the beauty of what we're doing here and talking about it, and because hopefully it reaches someone, and if they're not good ground, they become good ground. If they're good ground, they become better ground, and they get involved, and life changes around them because they changed.
Well, I'm changed for having this interview with you today. Again, doing my homework before we got on, interviewing with you, speaking to you, the person on the red carpet is the same person I'm talking to right now. And I appreciate that about you. Cause a lot of guys can stand on the red carpet and say a lot of stuff. They can get their award and stand up behind the podium and, thank God first, but then their life doesn't match. And man, everything that you've said is, and everything I've seen about you, your life matches your message. And that's, incredible. So let's talk particulars very quickly. We've taken a lot of time, and I'm so thankful for your time. First response. So, okay. Overcomer and the other ones we mentioned, I still believe, I think you probably find those on streaming services somewhere.
Correct. And they're out there, please go to CameronArnett.com and you can find out a piece of everything that we're doing.
CameronArnett.com. That's your hub, for those kind of things. And we didn't even touch on, you have a massive resume, my friend. It's amazing. It's very impressive. So please go visit, CameronArnett.com, his website. Running the bases. That's out right now. You can find that in theaters right now. And then most of all, First Responders comes out, October 24th and 25th.
Yes. So, it's scheduled right now, for those 2 days, 24th and 25th. However, what we've been finding is if the Saints come out, they hold it out for even longer. And so that's what's happening with LifeMark. That's what's happening with, Running the Bases. And so, if you will support it, if you go after out there and look and tell your friends and be the reason why it succeeds, it'll succeed even more so than what we, imagined. And so, don't let just those 2 days fool you. You're the reason why it can stay for the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th if you go out and support.
And where can they find, is it Fathom Events? Is that who it's from?
Fathom Events is
Fathom Events. Okay.
Who is going through, yes.
Okay. So First Responders, Fathom Events, October 24th and 25th for now. There's a website, firstrespondersmovie.com. So please, those are all your particulars. Please support this film. Please support my friend. Thank you so much. Your time today has been such a blessing to me, and your, dedication to your craft and what you have done through films has been an inspiration to many. I'm sure I can speak for others. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much, man. It's a pleasure being here and an honor as well.
All right. We'll get that episode 2 another time because we still got to talk about single ladies.
We have part 2 and 3 to do.
God bless you, my friend. Talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.